The world of Aeridor was woven from twilight and soft sounds. Not the loud, boisterous sounds of a waking world, but the rustle of starlight through ancient leaves, the gentle sigh of a river over smoothed stones, the nearly inaudible hum of a moss-covered rock settling deeper into the earth. This symphony of quiet magic was known as the Whis. And Ilara, with her ears tuned to frequencies most others never noticed, was a Whis listener. Her home was the village of Lumina, nestled in a valley where the light never quite ripened into full day. Instead, a perpetual gentle dusk kissed the ancient rooftops, painting the cobblestones with shades of amethyst and pearl. The sky above was a deep indigo, always pricked with 1,000 distant shimmering stars that cast their own soft silver glow. It was a place where shadows were never truly dark, but rather deeper pools of twilight, inviting rest and quiet dreams. Ilara was small for her 10 years, with hair the color of midnight streaked with moonbeams and eyes that held the deep, knowing sparkle of the evening sky. She spent her days not in the boisterous play of other children, but wandering the edges of Lumina, her bare feet silent on the dewy grass, her head tilted, always listening. She heard the sleepy murmur of the glowworms as they unfurled their light beneath the elder trees, the almost imperceptible high thrum of the crystal dust that drifted down from the stardust falls, and the ancient, sleepy breath of the mountains themselves. These were the Whis, the very essence of Aeridor's magic, and to Ilara, they were as clear as bells. Lately, however, a subtle change had begun to creep into the world. The Whis were fading. It wasn't a sudden silence, but a gradual softening, like a beloved lullaby sung quieter and quieter each night. The glowworm's murmur was a little less vibrant, the crystal dust's wan thrum a little fainter, the mountain's breath a little shallower. Most people didn't notice. They attributed it to the changing seasons, or perhaps just the natural ebb and flow of things. But Ilara felt it deep in her bones, a growing hollowness where once there had been a vibrant, resonant hum. One evening, as the first of the dream moths began to unfurl their shimmering wings from the sleep lilies, Ilara sat by the old willow whisperer tree. Its branches, usually alive with 1,000 tiny rustling secrets, were unusually still. The gentle hush it usually whispered, a sound that brought comfort to restless hearts, was barely there. It was like trying to hear a snowflake fall on a cloud. "Oh, willow whisperer," she murmured, touching its ancient gnarled bark. "What is happening to your song?" A single silvered leaf detached itself and drifted into her palm, cool and smooth. It didn't rustle. It simply, fell. Even its descent was quieter than it should have been. A sadness, deep and ancient, settled over Ilara. The Whis were not just sounds. They were the lifeblood of Aeridor, the invisible threads that bound magic to the world. If they faded completely, what would become of Lumina? Of the perpetual twilight, the shimmering stars, the very dreamlike existence they all knew? She clutched the silent leaf and hurried home, her usual quiet steps now imbued with a faint urgency. Her grandmother, Nana Lyra, was weaving by the hearth, her silver hair braided with iridescent moonsilk. The fire, fed by glowing ember wood, cast a warm, flickering light that danced with the shadows. Nana Lyra was old, older than the oldest elder tree, and her eyes held the wisdom of countless twilight years. She had once been a Whis listener herself, though her hearing had softened with age, leaving her with only echoes of the world's song. "Ilara, child," Nana Lyra said, her voice like the gentle murmur of a forgotten stream. "You look troubled. Has the willow whisperer refused to share its dreams tonight?" Ilara held out the silent leaf. "Ooh." "Nana, the Whis are fading. Everywhere. The willow whisperer, the glowworms, even the stardust falls. They're all so quiet, it feels." Nana Lyra took the leaf, her gnarled fingers tracing its smooth surface. A faint frown creased her brow. "Ah, my little wren song. I had hoped my ears deceived me. I hear less than I once did, but I feel the silence growing in the heart of things. The world feels thinner." She sighed, a sound like dry leaves scattering. "There is an old story, a very old one, whispered only in the deepest sleep of the elder trees. It speaks of a time when the Whis nearly vanished once before." Ilara's eyes widened. "What happened? How did they come back?" Nana Lyra leaned closer, her voice dropping to a near whisper that was itself a kind of whiz. "They say the Whis, the very essence of Aeridor, originates from a single pure source, a place where the first sound was born, the first shimmer of magic. It is called the heart of the Whis, or sometimes the echoing core. And if the Whis ever truly faded, a child of Aeridor born with the purest ears would need to journey to this heart and reawaken its song. A child with the purest ears, Elara repeated, a strange fluttering beginning in her chest. Nana Lyra looked at her, her eyes twinkling like distant stars. Indeed, a child who can hear the heartbeat of a dewdrop, the memory in a stone, the sorrow of a fading star. A child perhaps like you, my Elara. Elara felt a thrill, both of fear and a strange, deep purpose. Her small hands trembled slightly. But where is the heart of the Whis? Is it even real? The stories say it lies beyond the whispering woods, through the veiled peaks, and across the sea of silent dreams. Nana Lyra said, her gaze distant, as if seeing the ancient landscape in her mind's eye. It is a journey no one has taken in countless ages. Many believe it to be merely a fable now, but the fading Whis, it tells me otherwise. She reached into a small, intricately carved wooden box beside her chair and pulled out a smooth gray stone, no bigger than Elara's thumb. It was veined with lines of faint, shimmering silver. This is an echo stone. It was my grandmother's, passed down through generations of Whis listeners. When the Whis were strong, it would hum with the gentle song of the world, vibrating with the echoes of ancient magic. Now. She held it out. Elara took the stone. It was cool in her palm, and utterly, profoundly silent. There was no hum, no vibration, no faint resonance. It was just a stone. A wave of despair washed over her, followed quickly by a surge of determination. This was not just a story, it was a warning. And she was the one who could hear it. I have to go, Nana, Elara declared, her voice small but firm. I have to find the heart of the Whis. Nana Lyra nodded slowly, a gentle smile gracing her lips. I knew you would say that, my Rensong. You have always been brave, even in your quietness. But this is not a journey to be taken lightly. The world beyond Lumina is vast and full of wonders, but also shadows that even the twilight cannot soften. You will need to be clever, and you will need to listen with more than just your ears. She rose and went to a hidden compartment in the wall, pulling out a small woven satchel. Inside, she placed a small pouch of dried dream fruit, which sustained the body and settled the mind, a flask of starlight dew collected from the highest peaks, which shimmered with faint light and purified any water it touched, and a soft hooded cloak woven from the wool of sleep sheep, which offered warmth and protection from stray breezes. And this, Nana Lyra said, placing a small, intricately carved wooden flute into the satchel. This is a song flute. It has no holes for fingers, for it is not meant to be played with tunes, you know. It is meant to capture the sounds you hear, to amplify them, and to give them back to the world if they are ever needed. It is a tool for a true Whis listener. Elara carefully placed the silent echo stone into her pocket, next to the song flute. The satchel felt surprisingly light on her shoulder. Thank you, Nana. I promise I will listen carefully. And remember, Elara, Nana Lyra said, her hand resting gently on Elara's cheek. The Whis is not just sound, it is memory, it is hope, it is the silent promise of dawn. Listen for the hope, even in the quietest corners. With a final hug, Elara stepped out of the warmth of her home and into the perpetual twilight of Lumina. The village was mostly asleep, a scattering of soft glowing windows like fallen stars. No one else was stirring. Her journey would begin in silence, as it must. She walked past the houses, each one a familiar, comforting presence, past the silent willow whisperer, and finally to the edge of the village, where the cultivated fields gave way to the wilder expanse of the Whispering Woods. The Whispering Woods were aptly named. Even when the Whis were strong, they were a place of subtle sounds. Now they were almost entirely silent. The ancient, towering trees, their bark like polished obsidian and their leaves a deep, shimmering emerald, stood like silent sentinels. Their branches interlaced overhead, forming a dense canopy that filtered the starlight into even softer, dappled patterns on the forest floor. Elara took a deep breath. The air here smelled of damp earth, sweet night-blooming jasmine, and something else, something ancient and green. She stepped beneath the first massive boughs, and the world shifted. The familiar sounds of Lumina, even its quietest ones, receded entirely. Here, there was only the vast encompassing silence, broken only by the soft high thump-thump of her own heart. She listened. Really listened. She closed her eyes, letting her other senses guide her. The cool air on her skin, the springy moss beneath her feet, the faint scent of unseen flowers. And then, a sound. So faint she almost missed it. A tiny, almost imperceptible clicking. Elara opened her eyes and peered into the deep shadows. The clicking came again, closer this time. It was rhythmic, like a tiny, intricate mechanism turning. She followed the sound, stepping carefully over exposed roots and around lichen-covered boulders. The sound led her to a clearing, a small, circular space where the starlight filtered through a break in the canopy, illuminating a patch of velvety moss. And there, on the moss, was a creature she had never seen before. It was no bigger than her thumb, with a body like polished wood and wings like spun moonlight. Its head was adorned with delicate antennae that quivered with every clicking. As she watched, it took a tiny iridescent petal from a nearby flower, and with an incredibly delicate movement began to grind it against a small flat stone. The eye clicking was the sound of the petal being meticulously crushed. Elara realized what it was, a Whis weaver. These tiny creatures were said to collect the essence of the whis from flowers, leaves, and dew, and weave them into new patterns, helping to maintain the delicate balance of magic. But this one, it was working so slowly, so deliberately, as if each click was an immense effort. And the petal it was grinding, it barely shimmered. Its magic was faint. The Whis weaver paused, its antennae twitching. It had sensed her presence. It froze, its tiny jewel-like eyes fixed on her. "Hello," Elara whispered, careful not to startle it. The creature made another eye-clicking, a sound that seemed to hold a question. "I'm Elara," she continued softly. "I heard your work. You're a Whis weaver, aren't you?" The Whis weaver gave a series of rapid clicks and then unfurled its luminous wings. It hovered for a moment, then flew towards her, circling her head with a faint, almost inaudible shimmer. It landed gently on her outstretched finger, its tiny weight barely noticeable. It extended an antenna and delicately touched her ear. A spark like distant starlight passed between them. And then, Elara heard it. Not with her physical ears, but in her mind, a tiny, urgent plea. "Oh mine wane toy. The song is fading. We cannot weave enough. Too quiet. Too quiet. In a while, Pendim Delwion." Elara felt a pang in her heart. Even the creatures whose very existence was tied to the Whis were struggling. "I know," she whispered to the Whis weaver. "I'm going to find the heart of the Whis. I'm going to try to bring the song back." The Whis weaver trembled, then flew off her finger, circling the clearing once more. It landed on the crushed petal, nudging it towards her with its antenna. Elara understood. It was a gift, a fragment of the fading Whis, imbued with the creature's hope. She carefully picked up the almost silent petal and placed it gently in her satchel, next to the echo stone and the song flute. The Whis weaver, as if it had delivered its message and its offering, rose into the air and vanished among the high branches, leaving Elara alone once more in the profound silence of the woods. But she wasn't truly alone. The image of the struggling Whis weaver, its tiny valiant effort against the encroaching silence, solidified her resolve. She had to find the heart. She had to bring back the song. Elara continued deeper into the whispering woods. Wah! The trees grew taller, their branches thicker, their presence more ancient. The air grew cooler, carrying the scent of damp moss and something else, a faint, metallic tang, like distant rain on stone. She noticed shimmering strands, almost invisible, woven between the trees. They looked like spider silk, but gleamed with an inner light, catching the faint starlight and scattering it into tiny ephemeral rainbows. These were the moon threads, spun by the silent moon spiders, and they marked the old paths known only to those who moved quietly and observed closely. Following the faint shimmer of the moon threads, Elara walked for what felt like hours. The quiet of the woods was profound, yet not entirely devoid of life. She saw the occasional glimmer of a sleep owl's eyes, heard the soft, distant flap of its wings. She felt the gentle stir of unseen currents of air, carrying the scent of distant, unknown flowers. The terrain began to rise gently, the ground becoming rockier, interspersed with patches of stubborn, glowing moss. The air grew colder, and the starlight overhead seemed to grow brighter, as if the canopy of trees was thinning. Elara reached a small plateau, a natural clearing where the moon threads converged. In the very center, bathed in the direct, silvery glow of the stars, stood a single, colossal stone. It was taller than the tallest tree, a smooth obsidian pillar that seemed to drink in the starlight. Its surface was covered in faint, swirling patterns that seemed to shift and flow in the dim light. This was a sentinel stone, Nana Lyra had once told her, marking the boundary between the Whispering Woods and the next part of the journey. These stones were ancient, imbued with the memory of the land, and if the Whis were strong, they would sing with a low, resonant hum, guiding travelers. Elara approached the sentinel stone, her heart thrumming. She pressed her palm against its cool, smooth surface. It was silent. Utterly, completely silent. No hum, no vibration, no whisper of ancient memory. It was just a cold, inert rock. A wave of despair threatened to overwhelm her. If even the sentinel stone, meant to be a beacon, was silent, how would she ever find her way? How could she hope to reawaken the heart of the Whis if the very guides of the journey had lost their song? She closed her eyes, leaning her forehead against the cold stone, and listened. Not with her ears, but with her heart, with her very being. She listened for the echo of what shouldn't be there, the memory of the song. And then, faintly, like a ghost of a sound, she felt it. A tremor. Not in the stone, but within herself, a resonance. A single, almost imperceptible thrumming. It was the faintest whisper of a note, a single, lost chord of the sentinel stone's song. It was almost gone, but it was there. Elara remembered the song flute Nana Lyra had given her. She pulled it from her satchel, its smooth wooden surface warm in her hand. It had no holes, no keys. It was meant to capture and amplify. She held it to her lips, not blowing, but simply holding it, letting it rest there as she focused on that tiny, fading gwythrum she felt within the stone. She concentrated, pouring her own silent hope, her own deep listening, into the flute. She imagined the sound, the memory of the sentinel stone's song, flowing from the stone, through her, and into the flute. For a long moment, nothing happened. The stone remained silent, the flute inert. Elara felt her hope falter. Then a faint, almost imperceptible shimmer of light bloomed at the end of the flute. It was a tiny silvery glow, like a captured firefly. And from the flute, a sound. So soft, so delicate, it was barely more than a sigh. But it was there. The faintest, most fragile hum, a single clear note, resonating in the silent night. The sentinel stone, in response, seemed to gather a faint, internal glow. The swirling patterns on its surface shimmered, becoming momentarily brighter. The hum from the flute grew a fraction stronger, feeding the stone, coaxing it, awakening its dormant memory. It wasn't a full song, not yet. But it was a beginning. A single, clear note in the vast silence. Elara felt a surge of triumph and awe. The Whis were not entirely gone. They were merely sleeping, waiting to be reawakened. The sentinel stone, now faintly glowing with its own inner light, pointed a path. The swirling patterns on its surface, once static, now seemed to flow towards the east, towards a distant, shadowy range of mountains that pierced the indigo sky like jagged teeth. The veiled peaks. Elara knew her next destination. She had found the first echo, and she had coaxed it into a whisper. Her journey had truly begun. She pocketed the song flute, now faintly warm, and turned towards the silent mountains, her heart filled with a renewed sense of purpose and the quiet promise of the Whis. The veiled peaks. Elara knew her next destination. She pocketed the song flute, now faintly warm, and turned towards the silent mountains, her heart filled with a renewed sense of purpose and the quiet promise of the Whis. Dawn painted the eastern sky in hues of rose and lavender, as Elara left the quiet village behind. The familiar cottages, with their wreaths of dried herbs and wisps of morning smoke, grew smaller until they were mere specks against the verdant tapestry of the valley. Her journey began with a gentle ascent through rolling meadows, where dew-kissed spiderwebs shimmered like forgotten jewels, and the air was sweet with the scent of wild thyme. Each step carried her further from the known, deeper into the embrace of the Whis, and the unknown path it laid before her. Days blurred into a rhythm of walking, observing and listening. The meadows gave way to ancient groves, where trees with bark like wrinkled wisdom stood sentinel. Here, the Whis seemed to hum more audibly, a subtle vibration beneath the soles of her feet, a gentle sigh in the rustling leaves. Elara found herself drawn to the forest of whispering pines, a place she had only ever heard spoken of in hushed tones. The pine needles, long and silvery, were strung between branches like countless tiny harps. When the wind stirred, they didn't just rustle, they sang. It was a melody without words, a soothing, ethereal chorus that seemed to carry the very breath of the world. One afternoon, as she paused by a clear stream, reflecting the endless sky, she noticed a flurry of movement among the mossy banks. A family of glimmer hares, their fur an iridescent blend of greens and blues, were huddled together, their usually vibrant coats dulled with distress. One tiny hare, no bigger than Elara's palm, had tangled itself in a patch of thorny briar, its shimmering fur snagged, its small pointed ears flattened in fear. Its parents and siblings hopped anxiously around it, their colors flickering from emerald to sapphire in an agitated dance. Elara approached slowly, her movements gentle. She took out the song flute, its wood now carrying a soft, almost imperceptible glow. She didn't play a powerful tune, but a soft, comforting melody, a lullaby woven from the quiet hum of the Whis she now felt within herself. The notes drifted through the air like motes of starlight, touching the glimmer hares. Their anxious flickering softened, their ears slowly rose, and their bright, intelligent eyes turned towards her, curiosity replacing fear. As the gentle song continued, Elara carefully knelt, humming the tune herself, and with practiced fingers, untangled the tiny hair from the briar. It didn't bolt. Instead, it nudged her hand with its soft nose, its fur shifting to a contented sunny gold before it scampered back to its family, who greeted it with joyful flashes of rose and violet. Elara smiled, a warmth spreading through her chest. The Whis wasn't just about finding echoes, it was about connection, about harmony. Nights under the vast star-dusted canopy were a wonder. Elara would build small, careful fires, their flames dancing like sprites against the encroaching darkness. She would trace constellations she knew and discover new ones, imagining the stories they told. The song flute nestled in her pack would often hum faintly, a soft, reassuring vibration against her side. She felt the Whis strengthening within her, not as a demanding force, but as a quiet companion, a growing intuition that guided her gaze, her steps, and her heart. The world seemed to whisper secrets she hadn't noticed before, the silent growth of roots, the gentle drift of pollen, the ancient dreams of stones. As the days turned into weeks, the landscape began to change once more. The whispering pines gave way to gnarled, robust evergreens, their branches laden with cones like tiny wooden lanterns. The air grew crisper, carrying the scent of damp earth and distant cold stone. The ground began to slope upwards, and soon the rolling hills transformed into the rugged moss-covered foothills of the veiled peaks. And there they were, closer now, dominating the horizon. The mountains were a colossal symphony of rock and ancient magic, their jagged teeth piercing the indigo sky. But it was the mist that truly defined them. It wasn't mundane fog, but a shimmering opalescent veil that clung to their slopes, swirling and parting in slow, deliberate currents. It pulsed with a faint inner light, revealing glimpses of hidden valleys and sheer, crystalline cliffs before drawing its curtain once more. This was the veil, the very essence of their name. Elara stood at the threshold, the silence of the mountains profound and ancient. The song flute in her pocket thrummed with a gentle insistence, drawing her forward. She took it out, and its surface glowed with a soft, steady light, pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. The map, still tucked into her tunic, warmed against her skin, and when she unfurled it, the swirling patterns that had once pointed east now coalesced into a faint, shimmering line, guiding her directly into the heart of the mist. She stepped into the veil. The air grew instantly cooler, laden with the scent of ozone and something akin to frozen starlight. The mist wasn't cold or damp, but ethereal, like breathing in pure, shimmering thought. It parted around her as if sensing her presence, forming a winding tunnel of light that led deeper into the mountains. She walked with a sense of awe, her footsteps muffled by the soft, resilient moss that carpeted the ground beneath the ancient trees. These were not the trees of the lower lands. Their bark was striated with glowing veins, and their leaves, instead of green, were shades of deep violet and shimmering silver. The path began to ascend steeply, weaving through colossal boulders draped in luminescent moss that glowed like spilled moonlight. She passed through natural arches formed by roots as thick as oak trunks, and heard the distant melodic chime of unseen waterfalls. The mountains were not silent, she realized. They hummed with a deep, resonant chord, a sound that vibrated not just in her ears but in her very bones. It was the song of the earth, amplified by the crystalline heart of the peaks. Following the song flute's gentle pull, Elara found herself in a hidden gorge, its walls rising sheer on either side, meeting in a narrow strip of sky overhead. Here, the air was still, and held the scent of damp stone and something sweet, like honey dew. The gorge floor was carpeted with a strange, velvety grass that seemed to absorb all sound. Along the walls, thousands of tiny, clear crystals protruded, catching the filtered light and scattering it into dazzling rainbows. Each crystal hummed with a different pitch, creating a soft, unceasing symphony that was both complex and soothing. This, she knew, was the Whispering Gorge. As she moved deeper, the crystal hum intensified, and Elara noticed something extraordinary. A stream, its water clear as liquid moonlight, flowed not downwards, but upwards along one wall of the gorge, defying gravity, its surface undisturbed. It was a silver ribbon spiraling into a small, almost invisible crevice high above. This distortion, this impossible flow, was a sure sign. The Whis was strong here, and the second echo must be near. Elara's gaze followed the upward-flowing stream, her heart quickening with anticipation. The map, still clutched in her hand, pulsed with a soft, insistent beat, guiding her towards the crevice. It was too high to reach easily, but as she approached, a series of glowing footholds, like shimmering steps of solidified mist, shimmered into existence along the rock face. They offered a path, a magical ladder woven from the very essence of the veil. With a deep breath, Elara began to climb. Each step felt secure, the misty platforms firm beneath her boots. The air grew colder as she ascended, the crystalline hum of the gorge fading behind her, replaced by a deeper, more resonant thrum that seemed to emanate from the crevice itself. After a dizzying climb, she reached the opening. It was narrow, barely wide enough for her to squeeze through, but beyond it, a soft, inviting light pulsed. She slipped through the crevice and gasped softly. She was in a vast cavern, not dark and oppressive, but luminous and alive. This was the Heartstone Cavern. The walls, floor, and ceiling were entirely composed of a single colossal formation of clear, rose quartz-like crystal that glowed with an inner rosy light. Veins of pure, shimmering gold ran through the crystal, pulsing with gentle light, like the cavern's own heartbeat. In the very center, where the upward-flowing stream finally disappeared into the ceiling, was a pool of liquid light, swirling with all the colors of a sunset. It didn't ripple. It breathed, expanding and contracting in slow, rhythmic pulses. And standing beside this pool, tall and slender, was a figure unlike any Elara had ever seen. It was a being woven of pure light and mist, its form shifting and coalescing like a wisp of cloud caught in a sunbeam. Its eyes, twin points of emerald light, regarded her with ancient wisdom and serene curiosity. Its skin shimmered with the colors of the veil, and delicate, crystalline antlers, like frozen starlight, branched from its head. This was a mistweaver, a guardian of the peaks, a silent observer of the Whis. The mistweaver communicated not with words, but with a gentle cascade of images and feelings that flowed directly into Elara's mind. Welcome, seeker. Einde. You carry the first whisper. You seek the second. There was no judgment, only observation. Care echo awaits. It listens for your song. One named she. Elara felt a thrill of recognition. This was it. Ow. The second echo. Knew. It wasn't a physical object. but the very essence of the shimmering pool, a resonant frequency waiting to be harmonized. She bowed slightly to the Mistweaver, a silent acknowledgement of its ancient presence, and then turned her attention to the pool. She took out the song flute. It pulsed warmly in her hand, resonating with the very air of the cavern. She closed her eyes for a moment, recalling the feeling of the first whisper, the quiet joy of it settling into the flute. She thought of the journey, the glimmer hairs, the whispering pines, the luminous moss, the upward stream, all the small wonders that had led her here. She poured her heart into her breath, into her fingers, and began to play. The melody was different this time. It started with the simple, pure note that had coaxed the first whisper, but then it broadened, deepened. It wove in the crystalline hum of the gorge, the deep resonance of the mountains, the ethereal light of the vale itself. It was a song of discovery, of journey, of the burgeoning connection she felt to the Whis. The notes flowed from the flute like liquid starlight, mingling with the rosy glow of the cavern, echoing off the golden veins in the crystal. As Aeridor played, the pool of liquid light in the center of the cavern began to respond. Its swirling colors intensified, swirling faster, like a miniature galaxy coming to life. The light pulsed in time with her music, growing brighter, stronger, until the entire cavern was bathed in its radiant glow. The Mistweaver stood unmoving, its emerald eyes fixed on Aeridor, a faint, almost imperceptible shimmer of approval passing through its form. The song reached its crescendo, a powerful, harmonious chord that vibrated through Aeridor's entire being. The pool of light, now a blinding vortex of color, suddenly coalesced. It didn't vanish but solidified, becoming a single luminous orb of pure shimmering light that floated gently above the pool. It hummed with a silent, profound melody, a note of pure, concentrated Whis. This was the second whisper. Aeridor lowered the song flute, her fingers tingling, her breath coming in soft, even gasps. The orb of light drifted towards her, hovering gently before her face. She reached out, and as her fingers brushed its surface, it dissolved into a myriad of sparkling motes that danced around her, then flowed into the song flute, sinking into its wood like liquid starlight. The flute vibrated powerfully now, a deep, resonant hum that Aeridor could feel in her chest. It was warmer than before, its soft glow intensified, a steady beacon in her hand. A profound sense of clarity washed over her. The world outside the cavern seemed to sharpen, its colors more vibrant, its sounds more distinct. She felt the Whis not just as a hum, but as a silent, intricate language that she was slowly, wondrously, beginning to understand. It was as if a veil had been lifted from her own senses, revealing a deeper layer of reality. The Mistweaver bowed its head slightly, a silent farewell and a blessing. Aeridor turned to the map. It glowed with renewed brilliance, and the two swirling patterns, representing the whispers, now shone brightly. From them a new shimmering line emerged, pointing not to another mountain but westward, towards the faint distant shimmer of what looked like a vast boundless expanse of water. The azure sea. Aeridor smiled, a quiet sense of triumph and purpose settling in her heart. Two whispers now resided within the song flute, two echoes coaxed into song. Her journey was far from over, but with each step, with each note, the path ahead grew clearer, beckoning her towards new wonders and new mysteries. She turned towards the narrow crevice, ready to descend, ready to face the open sky, and the distant promise of the azure sea. The Whis sang in her soul, a silent, joyful chorus, urging her onward. The Whis sang in her soul, a silent, joyful chorus, urging her onward. The crevice, a jagged fissure in the mountainside, seemed to breathe a cool, earthy scent as Aeridor began her descent. It wasn't a sheer drop, but a winding, spiraling path, worn smooth by ancient waters and the passage of countless unseen feet. The air grew damp, carrying the faint, sweet perfume of unseen mosses and the distant murmur of a subterranean stream. Aeridor's fingers, nimble and sure, found purchase on protrusions of crystal-studded rock, her bare feet gripping the cool stone with an almost preternatural ease. The mountain seemed to hum around her, a low, resonant chord that vibrated through her bones, a sympathetic echo to the whispers in her flute. As she delved deeper, the last vestiges of daylight dwindled, replaced by a soft, ethereal glow that emanated from the rock itself. Luminescent vines, like traceries of frozen starlight, pulsed with gentle rhythm, casting shifting patterns of silver and cerulean on the cavern walls. Glistening stalactites hung like chandeliers of frozen tears, each droplet catching and refracting the subtle light, painting the descent with a quiet, shimmering beauty. The whispers within her song flute seemed to pulse in time with the mountain's heartbeat, two distinct melodies intertwining, a silent promise of discoveries yet to come. Hours later, though time felt fluid and unbound in the mountain's embrace, Elara felt a change in the air, a freshness, a hint of open space. The path widened, the luminous veins grew brighter, and then, with a final turn, she stepped out. She stood at the mouth of a vast hidden valley, a bowl of emerald green cradled between towering mist-shrouded peaks. The sky above was a canvas of deepest sapphire, dusted with the first, hesitant stars of twilight. A gentle breeze, carrying the scent of damp earth and unknown blossoms, ruffled her hair and danced across the surface of the song flute. Below, the valley floor was a tapestry of ancient trees, their leaves 100 shades of green, interspersed with meadows of wild, luminous flowers that glowed with their own inner light. A winding river, its surface reflecting the nascent starlight, snaked through the heart of the valley, whispering secrets to the mossy banks. This was not the harsh, wind-swept land she had left behind. This was a place of verdant peace, a sanctuary. A sense of profound calm settled over her, a quiet counterpoint to the eager hum of the Whis. She took a deep breath, filling her lungs with the clean, sweet air, and then, with a light step, began her descent into the valley proper. The ground beneath her feet was soft with centuries of fallen leaves and rich soil. The air grew warmer, humid with the breath of countless plants. As she walked deeper, the trees around her began to hum, a low, resonant drone that seemed to emanate from their very trunks. These were no ordinary trees. Their bark was smooth as polished jade, and their leaves, broad and glossy, shimmered with an inner luminescence that pulsed gently, like slow heartbeats. This was the Whispering Woods, a place spoken of in hushed tones by the few who knew its legend, a forest where the trees held the memories of the earth, and the wind carried their ancient songs. Elara paused, her hand instinctively going to her song flute. The whispers within it seemed to stir, eager to converse with the venerable spirits of the wood. She lifted the flute, not to play, but simply to hold it, to let it drink in the ambient magic. A small, iridescent creature, resembling a dragonfly woven from spun moonlight, flitted past her face, its wings buzzing with a sound like tiny crystalline bells. It hovered for a moment, its multifaceted eyes regarding her with keen curiosity, before darting away into the dappled shadows. Further on, she encountered a small herd of lumina deer, their coats the color of twilight mist, their antlers tipped with glowing moss. They grazed peacefully on the luminous flowers, their movements graceful and silent. One, a majestic stag with an impressive rack, lifted its head and met her gaze. Its eyes, deep and knowing, held no fear, only a gentle curiosity. Elara offered a soft wordless greeting, and the stag dipped its head in acknowledgement before returning to its grazing. It was a place of harmony, where every living thing seemed woven into the same intricate melodic tapestry. The path, if it could be called that, was more a suggestion, a faint trail of light where the luminous flowers grew more thickly. It led her deeper into the heart of the Whispering Woods, until the canopy overhead was so dense that only slivers of starlight pierced through, creating shifting patterns on the forest floor. The humming of the trees grew more pronounced here, a symphony of gentle vibrations that seemed to resonate in her very bones. Eventually, the sound of rushing water grew louder, drawing her towards it. She emerged from the trees onto the bank of a wide, slow-moving river. Its waters were not clear, but shimmered with a faint opalescent glow, as if infused with liquid moonlight. This was the River of Echoes, a place where sounds, once uttered, were said to linger, carried on the currents for untold ages. As Elara watched, a fallen leaf drifted downstream, and from its surface she could almost hear the faint, ghostly echo of a child's laughter, then the melancholic strain of a forgotten lullaby. The river was a living archive of sound, a testament to the impermanence and permanence of all things heard. She knelt by the bank, dipping her fingers into the cool, shimmering water. It felt like liquid silk, carrying a faint, sweet scent of distant rain. The whispers in her song flute vibrated with an almost frantic energy, as if recognizing kindred spirits in the river's depths. This was a place of immense sonic power, a reservoir of sound and memory. Elara felt an urge to play, to add her own song to the river's eternal chorus, but she resisted. Her purpose was not to add, but to gather, to understand. As she sat by the river, a sense of profound connection washed over her. The whispering woods and the river of echoes spoke to a part of her soul that craved harmony and understanding. She realized that the whispers she sought were not merely sounds to be captured, but facets of the world's own intricate song, each one a unique note in the grand symphony of existence. With the first blush of dawn painting the eastern sky in hues of rose and lavender, Elara rose, feeling refreshed and invigorated. The river flowed onward, guiding her steps. She followed its meandering path for what felt like half a day, the landscape slowly shifting. The dense, humming trees of the whispering woods gradually gave way to more open glades, where the light seemed to pool and linger. It was in one such glade that she found it. The moon-petal glade was a breathtaking sight, a circular clearing where the grass was a carpet of deep violet, and every surface was adorned with flowers that pulsed with an inner, silvery light. These were moon petals, their petals like spun moonlight, their scent a delicate blend of night-blooming jasmine and cool mountain air. In the center of the glade stood a single ancient tree, its branches spreading wide like welcoming arms. Its bark was not smooth jade, but a swirling tapestry of silver and obsidian, studded with glowing crystals that hummed with a soft, melodic tone. Beneath this tree, a figure sat in quiet contemplation. At first, Elara thought it was merely a play of light and shadow, for the figure seemed to shimmer, its form indistinct, woven from starlight and mist. As she drew closer, the details resolved. It was an old woman, though her face was unlined, ageless, her skin the color of polished moonlight. Her hair, long and unbound, cascaded down her back like a waterfall of spun silver, interwoven with strands of starlight that pulsed with gentle warmth. Her eyes, deep pools of indigo, seemed to hold the wisdom of forgotten constellations. She wore robes woven from what looked like woven starlight itself, shimmering with every breath. This was a star weaver, one of the ancient guardians of the celestial tapestry, a keeper of cosmic knowledge. Elara had only heard whispers of such beings, believed to be myths, living only in the oldest stories. The star weaver looked up as Elara approached, her lips curving into a gentle, knowing smile. Her voice, when she spoke, was like the soft chime of distant bells, resonating with an inner peace. "Welcome, Elara, daughter of the Whis. I have been expecting you." Elara felt no surprise, only a sense of rightness. "You know my name. And your purpose," the star weaver replied, her gaze settling on the song flute. "The whispers you carry are vibrant, echoes of the mountain's heart, and the deep earth's song. They sing a tale of courage and seeking." "I seek more," Elara admitted, her voice soft. "I follow the Whis, towards the azure sea. I believe there are more echoes, more songs, waiting to be found." The star weaver nodded, her silver hair shimmering. "Indeed there are. The world is a symphony, and you, child, are learning to conduct it. The Whis call you to the Sky Singer's lament." "The Sky Singer?" Elara prompted. "I know nothing of it." "The Sky Singer," the star weaver began, her voice weaving a narrative that felt both ancient and immediate, "is not a creature, but a phenomenon. It is the echo of the very first breath of the world, when the great winds first stirred the clouds and sang the mountains into being. It is the song of the celestial currents, the lament of the vast open sky, yearning for connection to the earth below. Its whisper dwells where the stars fell close enough." She gestured upwards towards the distant jagged peaks that ringed the valley, their summits wreathed in perpetual clouds. High above, in the cloud peaks, lies the sanctuary of Etheria. It is there, amidst the swirling mists and the icy winds, that the Sky Singer's lament resides. But the path is not merely one of ascent. It is a path of understanding, of listening to the silent language of the winds. Elara looked up at the daunting heights, a thrill of anticipation mingled with a healthy respect for the challenge. "How do I reach such a place?" The star weaver smiled, a twinkle in her indigo eyes. "The whispers you carry will guide you if you listen, but sometimes a little encouragement helps." She extended a hand, and from her palm a single iridescent feather, shimmering with all the colors of the rainbow, floated towards Elara. "This is a feather of the Sky Weaver. It will not grant you wings, but it will help you understand the currents of the air, the whispers of the wind. Hold it, and let it show you the path hidden in the sky." Elara carefully took the feather. It felt impossibly light, yet radiated a gentle warmth. As her fingers closed around it, she felt a subtle shift in her perception, as if the air itself now held a new, intricate pattern of currents and eddies, visible only to her. "Thank you," Elara said, her heart swelling with gratitude. "Go, Elara," the Star Weaver urged, her gaze returning to the distant peaks. "The Sky Singer awaits, but remember the highest peaks are often the loneliest. Seek not to conquer, but to harmonize." With a final, respectful bow, Elara turned her gaze to the cloud peaks. The journey from the verdant valley to the high, desolate peaks would be a stark contrast, a test of her endurance and her understanding of the world's diverse songs. The feather of the Sky Weaver pulsed gently in her hand, a compass of the air. She left the moon-petal glade, following the path the Star Weaver had subtly indicated. The landscape began to change with every step. The lushness of the valley floor slowly receded, replaced by hardy, gnarled trees clinging to rocky outcrops, their leaves a darker, more somber green. The air grew cooler, thinner, carrying the crisp scent of pine and stone. The gentle hum of the whispering woods faded, replaced by the rising song of the wind, a wilder, more untamed melody that whistled through the crevices and over the ridgelines. The path became steeper, more treacherous. Elara found herself scrambling over scree slopes, her hands and feet growing accustomed to the rough texture of granite and quartz. The sun, when it broke through the increasingly frequent cloud cover, felt harsher, its light reflecting off the stark rock faces with blinding intensity. Yet, the whispers in her song flute remained vibrant, and the feather of the Sky Weaver seemed to guide her, subtly pulling her towards areas where the ascent was less perilous, or where hidden ledges offered a safer passage. Days blurred into a rhythm of arduous climbing and awe-inspiring vistas. Below her, the moon-petal glade became a distant, shimmering jewel, and the whispering woods a dark, sprawling carpet. Above, the cloud peaks loomed, their jagged summits piercing the sky, perpetually shrouded in swirling mists that hinted at unseen wonders and untold dangers. One evening, as the last rays of sunlight painted the peaks in fiery hues of orange and purple, Elara found herself on a high plateau, a vast, flat expanse of weathered rock. The wind here was a constant, powerful force, tugging at her clothes and whispering secrets through her hair. As she sought shelter behind a cluster of ancient wind-sculpted boulders, she noticed movement against the darkening sky. They were sky-dwellers, creatures of myth, living embodiments of the wind itself. They resembled immense, graceful birds, but their bodies were not feathered, but rather woven from swirling clouds and shifting light. Their wings, vast and translucent, caught the last light of the sun, shimmering with opalescent colors. They rode the air currents with effortless grace, their calls a high, pure whistle that seemed to be the very voice of the wind. Elara watched them, mesmerized. The feather of the Sky Weaver in her hand vibrated with a gentle hum, almost like a greeting. One of the sky dwellers, larger than the rest, with a wingspan that seemed to stretch from one horizon to the other, peeled away from the flock and began to circle above her. Its keen eyes, like polished amber, seemed to pierce through the twilight and fix upon her. Elara slowly rose, holding the feather of the Sky Weaver aloft, a gesture of peace. The great sky dweller descended, its immense form casting a moving shadow over the plateau. It landed a respectful distance away, its cloud body coalescing into a more defined shape. Still bird-like, but with a majesty that transcended any earthly creature. Its whistle was softer now, a questioning note. "Greetings, Sky Dweller," Elara spoke. Her voice carried on the wind. "I am Elara, and I seek the Sky Singer's lament in the sanctuary of Etheria." The Sky Dweller tilted its head, its amber eyes regarding her. Then, to her astonishment, it began to sing. It wasn't a song of words, but a melody of pure sound, a complex tapestry of whistles, trills, and deep, resonant hums that spoke of boundless skies, of icy winds, and the silent eternal dance of the clouds. It was a song that resonated with the very essence of the Sky Singer, a precursor to the whisper she sought. Elara listened, completely captivated. The whispers in her song flute stirred, responding to the Sky Dweller's song, adding their own subtle harmonies. The feather of the Sky Weaver glowed with a soft inner light. When the Sky Dweller finished, it extended one of its vast ethereal wings towards her, a silent invitation. Understanding dawned on Aeridor. The Sky Dwellers were the guardians of the cloud peaks, and this one was offering her passage. With a surge of exhilaration, she approached the creature, carefully placing her hand on its shimmering cloud-like form. It felt cool and insubstantial, yet utterly strong. She climbed onto its back, settling into the hollow of its neck, clutching the feather of the Sky Weaver tightly. With a powerful beat of its colossal wings, the Sky Dweller launched itself into the air. The world below fell away, shrinking rapidly. Aeridor gasped, not in fear, but in sheer wonder. They soared upwards, higher and higher, through layers of swirling mist and cottony clouds. The air was cold, exhilarating, biting at her cheeks, yet she felt no discomfort. The Sky Dweller's body radiated a gentle warmth, and the whispers in her flute sang a joyful, soaring duet with the wind. They flew through a realm of ethereal beauty. Clouds stretched out in every direction, a vast undulating ocean of white, tinged with the approaching twilight's deep blues and purples. Distant mountain peaks became islands in this sea of vapor. Whis. Above them, the stars began to prick the inky canvas of the sky, closer, brighter, more numerous than she had ever seen them. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of breathtaking flight, the Sky Dweller began its descent. Through a particularly dense swirl of iridescent mist, they emerged into a sight that stole Aeridor's breath away. Before her lay the sanctuary of Etheria. It was not a building, nor a single peak, but a cluster of floating islands, suspended in the sky by unseen forces, like giant, moss-covered jewels. Waterfalls of shimmering starlight cascaded from their edges, disappearing into the clouds below. Bridges woven from pure light connected the islands, glowing with an inner luminescence. Ancient silver-leafed trees grew on their surfaces, their branches laden with blossoms that pulsed with a gentle, rhythmic light. The air here was alive with a subtle, resonant hum, a harmony of wind and starlight, a song that seemed to vibrate in the very fabric of existence. The Sky Dweller gently landed on the largest of these floating islands, its cloud body dissolving slightly as it settled. Aeridor dismounted, her feet finding purchase on soft, mossy ground that felt springy beneath her. She looked around, awestruck. The whispers in her song flute were vibrating with an intensity she hadn't felt before, a frantic, eager dance. This was it. This was where the Sky Singer's lament dwelled. The very air around her felt charged with its presence, a profound, melancholic beauty that spoke of ancient beginnings and endless journeys. She could feel it, a resonance, a deep yearning note that was both everywhere and nowhere, woven into the very fabric of the sanctuary. It wasn't a sound she heard with her ears, but one she felt in her soul, a silent, powerful song, waiting to be coaxed into her flute. Aeridor stood on the precipice of this new discovery, the wind a gentle caress, the stars like diamonds scattered across velvet. The third whisper was here, a profound and ethereal challenge, awaiting her song. Aeridor raised her flute, its polished wood warm against her fingers, a silent extension of her own breath. The air around her thrummed with the unspoken melody, a cosmic hum that resonated not in her ears, but deep within the quiet chambers of her heart. This wasn't a tune to be learned note by note, but a vibration to be felt, absorbed and then released, purified by her own spirit. She closed her eyes, letting the wind whisper secrets against her skin, feeling the ancient stone beneath her feet, the immense silence of the stars above. She thought of the river, its playful gurgle and steady flow, the first whisper that taught her adaptability. She remembered the mountain, its stoic strength and echoing wisdom, the second whisper that grounded her spirit. This third whisper, however, was different. It wasn't just a part of the sanctuary. It was the sanctuary, an all-encompassing presence that held both the river's dance and the mountain's steadfastness within its boundless embrace. It was the rhythm of creation, the heartbeat of everything that was, is, and ever would be. Taking a deep centering breath, Aeridor brought the flute to her lips. She didn't consciously choose a note, a melody, or a scale. Instead, she simply listened to the silent song within her, letting it guide her breath, her fingers, the very tilt of her head. The first sound that emerged was not a distinct note, but a resonant hum, low and pure, a single sustained tone, that seemed to vibrate not just the air, but the very light of the stars. As the hum deepened, a subtle shimmer began to ripple across the precipice. Tiny motes of starlight seemed to detach themselves from the constellations, dancing in the air like luminous dust. The silence of the sanctuary was not broken, but transformed, filled with an underlying thrum that grew in complexity. Elara's fingers moved instinctively, finding harmonies she'd never known existed, weaving together threads of sound that felt both utterly new and eternally ancient. The silent song began to reveal itself, blossoming into a symphony that was at once delicate and vast. It was the whisper of distant galaxies, the sigh of comets tracing their millennia-long paths, the gentle hum of planets spinning in perfect orbits. It was the sound of beginnings and endings, of stars being born in fiery nebulae and fading into dust. Elara was not just playing, she was tuning the cosmos, her flute a conduit for the sanctuary's own voice. As her melody swelled, the air around her became incandescent. The darkness of the night receded, replaced by a soft, pearlescent glow that emanated from everywhere and nowhere. And then, she saw them. Shimmering ethereal strands of light, like gossamer threads woven from moonbeams and stardust, began to emerge from the very fabric of the sanctuary. They stretched out into the luminous expanse, twisting and interweaving, connecting points she couldn't comprehend. These were the threads of fate, the silent, invisible pathways of endless journeys. Elara's eyes, wide with wonder, followed their intricate dance. Each thread pulsed with a faint, unique light, a tiny story waiting to unfold. She saw glimpses within them, a tiny sailboat navigating a storm-tossed sea, a scholar poring over an ancient scroll in a lamplit tower, a child laughing as they chased fireflies through a meadow, a brave warrior standing guard over a sleeping village, a solitary explorer mapping an unknown desert. She saw moments of joy, of sorrow, of quiet determination, of profound love. These were the echoes of lives lived, of choices made, of destinies woven across countless realms and untold eons. The sanctuary, she realized, was not merely a place, it was the loom of all journeys. It was the gentle hand that guided the threads, ensuring that the grand tapestry of existence remained harmonious, even amidst the chaos and beauty of individual lives. And her flute, she understood now, was the shuttle, the instrument through which the loom itself was kept in tune, its threads vibrant and true. A profound sense of understanding settled upon her. The deep, yearning note she had felt in her soul was the sanctuary's call for harmony, a subtle plea for a tuning, a rebalancing of the cosmic song. Her purpose, which had once felt like a distant nebulous quest, now shone with crystalline clarity. She was not just a flutist seeking a truth, she was a keeper of the song, a gentle guardian of the threads. As her final sustained note hung in the air, a perfect, luminous chord that resonated through the shimmering threads, a new vision unfolded before her. The light intensified, coalescing into a gentle swirling vortex directly above the precipice. From within its depths, a figure began to emerge, not with a physical form, but as an impression of pure wisdom and benevolent energy. It was neither male nor female, old nor young, but simply Whis, the ancient spirit of the sanctuary itself. It spoke to her not with words, but with a cascade of pure thought and feeling that flowed directly into her mind, warm and comforting as sunlight. "Welcome, weaver of harmony. You have heard the song and answered the call. For eons I have watched, I have listened, I have guided, but even the oldest loom needs tending, its threads sometimes fray, its melody occasionally wavers. You are the breath that renews, the touch that mends, the heart that sings the truth." Elara felt no fear, only a deep sense of belonging. The spirit showed her the delicate balance required to maintain the myriad paths, how a single discordant thread could ripple through many journeys, and how a song of true harmony could bring solace and grace to countless souls. Her flute, she understood, was not just a tool for music, but an instrument of subtle magic, able to sense the tensions in the threads, to smooth out the snags, to encourage the flow. "Your journey is not ended, Elara," the spirit conveyed, its presence radiating peace. "It has just begun in a new way. You are now part of my song, a vital note in the cosmic symphony. You will feel the whispers again, gentle nudges when a thread needs your touch, a journey needs your song. And when you play, the stars will listen, and fate will hum in harmony." The luminous figure began to recede, dissolving back into the swirling light, leaving behind an afterglow of profound serenity. The shimmering threads remained, now clearer, more vibrant, their silent stories pulsing with life. Ilara felt a deep wellspring of peace and purpose settle within her. She was no longer just the girl who had left her quiet grove seeking answers. She was Ilara, the weaver of harmony, the keeper of the song. She lowered her flute, a soft smile gracing her lips. The wind, once a caress, now felt like a gentle embrace. The stars, once scattered diamonds, now felt like old familiar friends, twinkling with shared secrets. The sanctuary, immense and ancient, now felt like home. Slowly, Ilara turned from the precipice. The path back down was bathed in the soft, pearlescent glow, and she knew she would find her way effortlessly. She would return to her quiet grove, to the familiar rustle of leaves and the gentle murmur of the stream. But she would carry the sanctuary within her, its silent song a constant companion, its shimmering threads a part of her own being. And sometimes when the moon was high and the world was hushed, she would raise her flute to her lips. She would play not for an audience, but for the universe itself, a gentle lullaby for the endless journeys, a song of harmony for the threads of fate, ensuring that every soul, wherever they might be, felt the subtle, comforting hum of a world held in perfect, magical balance. And as she played, the stars would twinkle a little brighter, and the dreams of countless beings would be a little sweeter, knowing that a kind heart was keeping the cosmic song, ever true, ever gentle, ever magical.